Hi, Ben here at Number Group, here to give you an example of how to set up Luna PBX with some examples on a typical office scenario. So in this picture we have three numbers, or three inbound numbers. Now each one does a different thing, so to basically try and give you an outline of how the system can work. So the topmost number, this routes directly to the director of the company, and then if he doesn't answer the call, it then fails over to the customer services group. The 0800 number routes directly to the customer services group, who will all ring together. And the 03 number rings through to the sales group, and if they don't answer, the call also fails over to the customer services group. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline within the Luna PBX system how to basically set this up, and also give you some instructions on how to configure the individual extensions. Okay, so to start off with, you need to log into Self-Care. So here we are logged in. Go to Luna PBX first, and we're going to set up the extensions that we need first of all. So we'll click on extensions. Now we had 6 extensions in total, 1 director, 3 in customer services and 2 in sales. So we'll go through and we'll create 6 extensions. There we go. So we'll now name them. So we'll call this the director, and always remember to click save whenever you make any change. Now it will ask you this because basically we've assigned a default presentation number which hasn't actually been used at the moment. So we'll actually click cancel to that because we want to use a different number. We want to use the 01925, this number here, and we'll click save and then we'll click OK. But you'll see the changes I've made there obviously will make sense later on. Okay, so we'll go through each one and we'll configure these accordingly. So we'll call this customer services 1, and it will obviously come up this each time, so we'll just go through and we will customer services 2, we'll copy that, customer services 3, okay, save. And these are our 2 sales extensions, so we'll call this sales 1, and we'll also call this sales 2. Okay, so we've got our basic extensions now created and set up and labelled. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is, because we had 2 different call groups. Now what a group is basically is a collection of extensions bundled together, which can be called based upon option, well, can be dialed or obtained in a particular set of options which are basically set per group. So we had 2 groups. We had the customer services group, and we had the sales group. Now in each case we obviously need to specify which extensions are within this particular group. So in this case we want customer services, save. There we go. Now at the bottom here you'll see the hunt mode, so this basically sets how the extensions are run, so they can run all together, in turn, or evenly, so basically the system will automatically balance the calls coming in. For the sake of our example, we're perfectly happy with ring together. Basically we want the ring each extension for 20 seconds doesn't apply because obviously we're not doing a sequential sequence, and the whole group for 210 seconds is fine. So we'll just click save at the bottom to make sure that's saved, and we'll do the same for sales. So we'll just add the 2 sales extensions in. Once again, we're perfectly happy with that hunting system. So there we go. So now we have the basics of our system set up. We've got our extension set up and we've got our 2 call groups. So the next stage is do the call routing into the system. So now you go to the numbers. Okay, so we have our 3 numbers in. Now I've already labelled them as per the introductory slide. So in this case you'll see that we've already got this pointing to the director because of the option we set before. Now in our example this failed over to the customer services group if they didn't answer the call. So what we need to do, as you can see, it's already going to PBX and to the director. We then click add, go to PBX, and we change that to customer services. Now groups usually start with 2 and extensions usually start with 1, And conferences, if you ever decide to set up a conference, usually start with 3. Now you can change this, but by default this is the behaviour of the system. So in this case we want to go to customer services and we'll click save. Now that's fine, but the problem is now when this call comes in, it will ring the director's extension, but it will also ring customer services at the same time. Now we don't particularly want to do this. We want to use the customer services as sort of a failover. So there's 2 ways around this. You can either delay the calling of this particular option here, or alternatively you can use to ring in turn. Now, for the sake of our example, we'll use ring in turn because that sort of fits our model better, and we'll click save. So what will happen now is calls into this will ring the director first, and then we'll ring the customer services team after that. Now we haven't set up any voicemail. We're going to leave that as is. So if customer service don't answer the call will then drop. So the next option was for the customer services team, which is on the 0800 number. So this just basically goes straight through to the customer services group. So we select PBX and we select the customer services group and click save at the bottom. And that is it. That's now configured, and so all calls coming into that 0800 number will be directed through to the customer services group. And the final group was the final number I should say, was the sales group on the 03 number. So we'll select PBX, sales group, and then this also failed over to the customer services group if they failed to answer. So we'll use the second option this time, PBX, customer services group. Now I mentioned before, obviously there's 2 different ways of doing this. So in this case we did ring in turn. This way we'll do it the different way. So if you click on options next to the particular translation setting, you'll get a little pop-up window. Now one option that we're going to use is this one, delay attempting this entry by and then into number of seconds. So let's say we want the sales team to ring for 20 seconds before the customer services team is then called. So we'll put 20 seconds in there and click done, and then click save. What this will then do is the system will ring the sales team phones for 20 seconds, and then if no one answers the call in sales, the customer services phones will then start ringing as well. Now the 2 differences basically between this is that in this scenario the sales phones will keep ringing. They won't stop. They'll just keep ringing until either the caller hangs up or the call is answered, either by someone in the sales team or in the customer services team. In this example, when the call comes through, the director's phone will ring first, but if they don't answer, his phone will then stop ringing, and then the customer services team's phone will start ringing. So that's basically the main difference between the 2 options that we have there when you're looking at routing onto different places after the initial translation setting. And that's pretty much it. See, it's very simple to set up, and let's say we've got our fundamental setup for our office. Now the only thing we need to go through is the configuration of the extensions themselves. Now all the settings are within the extensions page. Now, what I would refer to, I would link an extension to a physical person, not a particular handset. The reason being is obviously you can have multiple phones registered to the same extension. So I would always say that you would link a person or a physical entity to an extension rather than a phone. But in our example, we're not worrying about multi-homing or anything like that. We're just going to use 1 phone per extension. So all the SIP information you require is on each extension. So you'll see the login, the domain, the password, and so forth. The codec settings are down here as well. I would advise to leave it as detect on next call, and then when you make the first outbound call from that particular extension, the system will automatically detect the codecs which the phone is offering then, and then set those as the inbound codecs from then on. And that is pretty much it. People with access to the Luna PBX app can obviously access that via this link here. You would just change that to yes, click save, and then you've got the show QR code at the bottom. If you click on that, you'll get the pop-up window. You can then scan that using the application, and then that will configure the application on your mobile phone accordingly to this particular extension. And that is pretty much it. It's fairly straightforward, and it's fairly easy to operate. The only other thing we will do is we'll just make sure that the default presentation number is set correctly. So this basically means that if customer services team ring out, by default they'll present the 0800 number. Now, as you can see, the sales team are currently presenting the 0800 number. So we'll change that over to the 03 number that I believe we configured. Let's just make sure we get the right number. So it's the 03 number ending 883. So we'll go back. 883. Oh, no, that's the wrong section. Make sure you use the right section, as obviously that can cause problems. So if we go back to extensions, 883, save, and do the same for sales 2, 883, save. So this basically means if a member of the sales team or someone calls out from the sales phone, it will present this number on the outbound call. If a member from the customer service team calls out for one of these extensions, it will present this number on the outbound call. And likewise, if the director calls out, it will present his direct dial number. If you want to change the number being dialed, you have to change the settings from within the Self-Care portal on each of the extensions if you want to change the number being dialed out from. And that is pretty much it. That's the basics of setting up a very simple office-based system or an office-based call center. If you have any questions or any further queries about how to set up your account and how to use the system, then please contact us at support@numbergroup.com. Alternatively, call us on 0800 101. No, I'm not the number right. It's 0800 310 1010. We'll get there eventually. Yes, 0800 310 1010. And that'll come through to us, and obviously we can assist you further from there. Well, I hope this video has been helpful, and obviously if you need any further assistance, please do contact us.